The information shared on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. While we discuss topics related to mental health, well-being, and emotional support, we are not providing therapy or medical services. Always seek the advice of your physician, psychologist, psychiatrist, or other qualified mental health provider with any questions you may have regarding a mental health condition. If you are in crisis, feeling unsafe, or need immediate support, please contact a mental health professional or emergency services in your area. The views expressed by guests and hosts are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of any affiliated organizations or institutions.
Get inspired, get motivated with M.A.Y.A and the M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition podcast.
Something that I take pride in is trying to be forward thinking outside the box, challenging myself. And as I challenge myself, hopefully I challenge you.
Find M.A.Y.A on Twitter and Instagram at M.A.Y.A_Akai. On Facebook at M.A.Y.A Akai Presents.
We're going to talk health, wealth, fitness, mental health, financial, lots of different things that can empower you as you seek out the ambition that you're pursuing.
Or get everything M.A.Y.A at M.A.Y.A_Akai.com.
Namaste, everyone. Welcome to episode 86 of M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition. And as you know, this is a podcast that I like to say, I want to embrace a very salient topic that's not very sexy, mental health. But I like to bring it to you in a way that is forward thinking and fresh and a different perspective to help normalize the conversation. So as you know here, we look to pull back that veil of self-doubt and sabotage that plagues so many of us at some point in our lives, to be able to identify the ambitions, but more importantly, harness the motivation that you need to yield the satisfaction you're seeking in your everyday life. Now, if you're a first-time listener or viewer, I always say, welcome, always glad to have you, but buckle up for safety, because every now and then, you may say something that may kind of make you go, that you didn't expect, and that's okay. And of course, if you're a returning listener or viewer, then you know how we get down here. It's pretty straightforward. I always say, grab a pencil, pen, grab some paper, some notes, jot down something. I may say that jars a thought for you that you want to go back and reflect on later. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, so grab the beverage of your coffee, tea, glass of wine, whatever it is, and dedicate the next 30, 60 minutes just to you. Working on you is the key thing what we're doing here. So before we jump into episode 86, pretty much let's talk about safeguarding your personal assets, aka your emotional and mental resources, something that I define as the economy of self. We always have to do, obviously, our housekeeping items, you know how we do it here. So of course, I'm going to ask you to subscribe and share my YouTube channel, M.A.Y.A Speaks to You. You can find all the shows there, but of course, YouTube, that's your preferred way to listen or watch the show. You can always find episodes of M.A.Y.A on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Audible, Spotify, pretty much wherever there is a podcast platform, you're going to find me. Just search M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition. Of course, I'm always going to ask you to get social with me. I finally got it together starting out this new year. So all of my social media handles from Facebook, Instagram, or X are at M.A.Y.A Speaks to You, as well as another way to keep top of what's happening on the M.A.Y.A podcast. You can always subscribe to my website, which is M.A.Y.A-speaks.com, where you can find the podcast. And I have 2 blogs there that I really pour a lot into. I only post them on Wednesdays. So I've got the inspirational blog where I just give you a thought that I want you to process and think about for the week, not just for the day, but for the week, how it applies to you. You can use that and put that into your M.A.Y.A toolbox. And of course, many of you know I do have my Me on Pause blog, something that I'm very super passionate about, because menopause, perimenopause is a life-changing event for many women. And there's a lot of people talking about it, but I want to make sure, ladies, you are informed of how that change affects you, not just physiologically, but also psychologically. So like and subscribe and share that blog as well, Me on Pause, and you can stay on point. Fellas, I'm going to tell you too, check the blog, because if you have a wife, a daughter, whatever, a woman who's going through that change in life, there's a lot going on that most people don't know about that can improve communication and relationships dynamics greatly just by understanding that. So definitely check those things out. But of course, something I have that I've done better about promoting moving into this year is I actually do have an app. It is the M.A.Y.A experience app. And this is pretty much where you would find everything M.A.Y.A as well, but you can take M.A.Y.A on the go. So you can find the M.A.Y.A experience app in the Apple Store, as well as the Amazon store for my Android people. So you can scan either of these QR codes. I'll also pop it up on the top of the screen a bit later so you can scan those and then go and download the M.A.Y.A experience app. And there you go. You've got M.A.Y.A in the palm of your hand. Can't beat that. So you'll never miss an episode. You can get access to the blogs and everything is right there in your sixth appendage, which is pretty much everyone's phone is what that is. So now that I've done all of the housekeeping things for the show, let's get into episode 76. Let's talk about safeguarding your personal assets, aka your emotional and mental resources. And I'm going to tell you, many people never think about this. And this episode, just like many episodes, we're dropping some stuff into the M.A.Y.A toolbox for you. So as you know, with the M.A.Y.A toolbox, anything we talk on the show, hopefully by now, I hope you know these are resources to help you to build and achieve the things emotionally, mentally, maybe spiritually, financially, physically, whatever the goal is you have set for yourself. Everything that goes into this toolbox can help you to achieve those things. So what we're putting into the M.A.Y.A toolbox this week is emotional and mental resources, making sure that you understand the power of those tools that you have and that you are not misallocating them in ways that are not advantageous for you. So what are your emotional and mental resources / assets? It's so important that you identify what those mental and emotional resources and assets are, and also what does your reserve look like with those resources? Because I'm going to tell you something. When you talk about things such as time, energy, and attention, bandwidth, you only have a limited amount of those resources at your fingertips for yourself that you have to use to facilitate what you need for you, as well as if you are supporting other avenues in your life. Those are things, and most people don't realize it. So what we're going to discuss in this episode is we're going to make this a journey where you're going to do a self-audit that's going to allow you to really empower yourself. Because one, I'm going to help you to understand your personal economy, to identify and to quantify your core resources. We're not talking about money here. I do call it the economy itself because people tend to want to understand money and use it wisely if they can. So hence I call it the economy of self because it is about resources, but we'll tell you more. But this is beyond money. We're talking about emotional capacity, intellectual bandwidth, physical stamina, and, believe it or not, time. Time is one of the most precious resources that you have, and most people don't know they have a lot of it until they don't have it anymore. I want to make sure you understand the importance of those different resources / assets. But you have to be able to identify and manage these resources because it's important to pinpoint the areas, the relationships, and the habits that you are creating or utilizing and how they constantly might be uncompensated and draining resources, and you don't realize how you're using them. And lastly, we're going to figure out how to make choices that support your needs, develop concrete strategies, and set firm boundaries that will ensure that you are safeguarding and replenishing your own emotional and mental capital first, allowing you to support yourself, but also be able to give to others in a way that is sustainable and you have abundance and not scarcity, because that's what understanding the economy itself is all about. So, as we know, it isn't an uncommon experience, I would say, that a lot of people pour their energy, time, and attention into the needs of others, demanding tasks, and endless obligations. And there comes to a point at times that people reach a point where they feel complete and utterly depleted. What we often don't consider in this is that we have limits on the personal reserves that we have, as I refer to as those emotional and mental resources / assets. Our most precious and finite resources sit here on top of our neck, our brain, our mind. And until we feel and understand that, we often will feel the weight of the world on our shoulders because we become drained both emotionally and mentally because we're not really being aware of how we are overextending ourselves, aka how are we allocating our emotional and mental resources. And that's the thing about understanding the economy of self that's so important. So with that being said, let's get into what exactly is the concept of the economy of self, someone might ask. It is something that I actually came up with, and I often use this framework when I'm working with clients in sessions. It is a concept that I put together that I felt was a critical but could be a very transformative philosophy because I often feel that people can understand or want to understand money in either how to be better at managing it, grow it, things of that nature. So, in instance, they will pour money into the stock market hoping to make money. So, when it comes to money, people will put a lot of time, energy to it because they want to see growth. And they're very, very tactical often about it. Those people that are investors. How could you not be tactical about emotions or resources that you have? Because they are a very limited asset. So, I use this framework to allow deep but yet practical insight into what true personal resources actually are, help people understand how truly valuable they are, but most importantly, how often people unknowingly and systematically give away what they possess without ever receiving an adequate return on their investment. And those are the habits that people have to learn to break. And that is what the economy of self is all about. So, now that we've talked about what we're going to talk about in this episode and specifically what the economy of self is, what it entails, let's talk about what is a personal economy. We've kind of led into it a bit, we've been talking about it. A personal economy is your set of interrelated exchanges and activities that you have integrated either knowingly, willingly, or unwillingly into your life that require an allocation of your personal resources that we discussed. So, part of what you have to be able to do within that personal economy is understand what are your emotional and mental resources. And what most people pinpoint this most of the time, honestly, is they will say, it is my time, it is the energy that I expend supporting things, and often at the same time, it's the bandwidth that it takes to maintain things. This is what most people have come to identify as their resources. Now, mind you, you can expand on this a bit more and you can add in something like say that, it's the, when I talk energy, it's the physical energy I have to put into something. For some people, they allocate their finances. They put that in there because they say, how I go with my money does really impact where I sit mentally. So some people will add, their finances into this. Some people will roll spirituality into it. You can put any into these resources, anything that you want because they're yours. It's important that you identify ultimately what you deem to be important when you talk about your personal economy. So that's the key thing. It is those interrelated exchanges and activities that either you willingly, like I would say a willing way that you allocate time, energy, bandwidth would be jobs, relationships, things of that nature, volunteer work. That is you allocating your resources to those particular interrelated things, exchanges. And at that point, it's the resources that you put into it. So those would be willingly. Sometimes someone might say, well, what would I be unwillingly allocating resources to? Well, sometimes we get into relationships and it requires things of us that we are not prepared to give. And we might find that we are giving more, or we thought something was a different outcome or intention, and we poured into something with a different expectation. And now we're unwillingly maybe stuck in a situation that we don't want to be in. Sometimes we are forced into having to do situations that we don't want, and we have to allocate our time and energy to it. So you have to identify the thing that you have earmarked to pour into, to fill up the cup of others. Did you willingly and knowingly accept those things, or have you acquired these things through some means that you didn't really initially notice? It's important to know what was the intention with where you chose to allocate anything or allow something within your economy Did you make that decision or did someone else make it for you? Because remember, within the economy, like I said, it could be a job, it could be a friendship, it could be a relationship, it could be a host of things that are part of where you pour your time, energy, hence those emotional and mental resources. We talked about what's a personal economy. Well, let's talk a little bit about, well, what exactly are economy dynamics? Like what goes into it? So since I chose to use the word economy, I wanted to because I feel like I said people can connect and relate to the idea of money. So within your economy, a key focus that you really want to have is growth. Growth is everything. As you pour into something, as you're allocating your resources, you're doing it with the intention to see some form of growth. That could be an emotional growth point, it could be a mental growth point, whatever it is. You're expecting that as I pour into something, there's going to be something that it's going to yield something back for me that's going to have value. Value. So, growth and value are key dynamics when you talk about the economy of self. So, a couple things you want to make sure that you're rolling with that whole personal or little gain piece. So, you think about that. The concept pretty much in this theory still aligns the same way. It's when you acquire needed resources through relationships that yield more emotional or mental support than expected. So you may have gone into a relationship with someone, liking the person, but not coming to know the connection could be so strong. And so the thing you were looking for in a partner, you got more than what you expected. That's when you have good personal capital gain. You want to see that. But what's more important is that for almost everything, I will say, that you choose to allocate your resources in, one of the things that becomes really important to understand in the economic dynamic is, yes, getting some extra gain is wonderful. But when we talk about the return on investment piece, that's something that's important when you talk about growth and value. So when we talk about return of investment, it's just like it sounds. It's a relationship that should have a profitability metric that you can evaluate the efficiency or the gain of how you are allocating your resources, time, energy, bandwidth, whatever it is, to people, places, or things. So where you allocate your resources, those assets, how you invested, you want to see some type of growth or value come back to you. Now, remember, all relationships are not created equal, and you have to learn to be okay with that. And I say that because, for instance, you may do volunteer work. You may go to the humane site, whatever the case may be, work at a, breast cancer awareness walk or something. You're giving your time and your energy, maybe even recruiting because you want to see a successful turnout to that event to support breast cancer awareness. Well, the key thing is, chances you're not necessarily doing that because, it's going to give you something tangible back, but because you may be altruistic or philanthropic, you want to help others. So the joy you see in the success of that event could be the return of your investment. So knowing what you're looking to get from something is equally as important for deciding why you're going to do it. I'm doing it because I'm helping others. And what I hope to get from helping others. It's important to weigh those out. So as you're pouring into things, for instance, don't keep pouring into things if you've come to find the intention was good, but the outcome of whatever it is that you're pouring into never quite yields what you expect or anything that's worth the time or energy. That's when people have to learn to cut away the fat and get rid of the abuse and waste that can exist with personal economy. Because that's when you do the assessment of, here's all the things I allocate my resources or assets to. What is the nature of those relationships? What is the value? Does it provide growth? What is my intention and what is the outcome? And you should always look at those relationships and do an evaluation of them frequently to make sure that you are not allocating too much yourself, but not getting something back. Because when that happens, and you never want that to happen, then you have to ask yourself, well, wait a minute here. What is the state of my economy? Because I'm kind of feeling drained and fatigued. And I all of a sudden don't feel like I've got the passion and purpose that I started out with when I set forth on this endeavor. So you got to do those frequent check-ins and what is the stage of your economy? And there's three things that you got to keep in front of you when you do that evaluation. Is there growth versus do I find a recession is happening within my economy? Or is there potentially depression in my economy? And I've just come to realize how much I have depleted myself. And now I am struggling. So you're looking, when you do the evaluation of the state of your economy, you want to know about growth, if there's recession or depression, because we're talking depression or recession, this is where we might be talking about abuse or waste that you need to address in how you are allocating your resources. So we talked about the idea of growth. We talked about the personal capital gain that you want to see, as well as return on your investment. Those are the growth components of your economy that you can keep an eye on. You generally can see when something is moving. So like I said, you talk about if you did breast cancer awareness, 5K walk, and you were helping to plan it, to recruit people, and you guys had a goal and you managed to stay in your budget, and you'll say you hit your goal or have achieved it. That's pouring back into what you set out to do and where you allocated those resources. You saw something valuable and there was growth. So we understand what growth should look like within our own economy. But let's talk a bit about recession and depression, just like they sound. You sit into a recession in your personal economy when your economy goes into a state where you're experiencing a significant decline in the relationship exchanges or activities that you are allotting your resources to. So they're depleting, in some cases, your mental and emotional resources, you in a very specific state. That's not good. Now, an example could be, this may be, you go to work, you work hard, and you absolutely do it because there's a promotion coming, or you have an annual evaluation, and by getting a stellar evaluation that you then might get a raise. So you go above and beyond to show that you should really get that raise, or you deserve that promotion. If you find you work hard at work, and this is where people need to learn about jobs. Like, I know once upon a time, our probably, great grandparents, if like me, I'm 53, I'll throw my age out there, I'm not ashamed. They were loyal work people. Like, they would work that same job until the day they died and retire from it. The workforce is entirely different now, and job opportunities and even loyalty between employers and employees have had a great shift, I'd say, over the last 30 years. So I would tell somebody, if you went above and beyond at your job, and you sit there and you get your, say, annual evaluation, and you're hearing reasons like, well, you didn't get the raise because you failed to hit this metric, or it's a metric that is dependent upon people, and you're looking at them like, excuse me, I hit all my metrics. Now, what I can't control is that I might be on a team that can't do it. So you're telling me that now my raise is going to be predicated on somebody else's performance? That's what you have to stop and ask yourself. Is this for the job I should be in? Do I love this job this much? Is it stressful for me? Or if you have a job that's highly stressful, I always ask people, is the stress worth it? I know sometimes we have to keep jobs because financially there's no option, but I always say to people, if you're not happy with your job, what's your exit strategy? Because you are emotionally and mentally depleting yourself and getting nothing back in return. So when you find that you're expending out, but all of a sudden what's coming back in from where you've allocated that resource doesn't match, or it's slow, and you're not seeing growth, or you really can't pinpoint the value, you, my friend, might be sitting in a recession in your personal economy and don't realize it. If you can't find a way to make a shift to see value and growth in the things that you have earmarked as important enough to allocate your personal resources to. So that's a recession. Okay, let's talk about a depression then. I think this should be pretty straightforward to everybody. It's not rocket science. It's just like it sounds. A depression is just that, a depression. A depression is when there is a severe, prolonged downturn in your emotional and mental well-being. And this is often is characterized like in a decline in your motivation, self-care, loss of purpose and passion. You feel stuck. You don't value nothing. You hate the world. You've just turned into this negative Nancy. Nothing seems right to you. Nothing seems right to you. So you have gone from watching yourself pour into things, not seeing a return or investment or growth. And then all of a sudden it just dropped off and you kept pouring in and now you're depleted. That's a problem. And this is why it's important to always know, what is the state of your economy? Are you seeing growth, personal growth, mental growth, emotional growth? Are you struggling to get balance in your life? So you're in a recession of putting out and not exactly seeing what you want back? Or has it just flat out turned into there is no return of investment where you have now allocated yourself? It becomes imperative that you understand these dynamics, because if you do, you will continue to always overextend yourself and then feel mentally and emotionally fatigued. The other big part of, once you actually identify what goes into your economy, meaning this is where I'm allocating my resources. And remember, we as individuals wear many hats. So don't lose sight of, there are some roles. Remember, I said you might have unwillingly got placed in something into your economy. Some of the roles we acquire in life we didn't ask for. So for instance, we are born into roles. We are daughters, sons, and at later stages in life, you may become a mother or a father, or you may become a husband or a wife, whatever it is. These are all different roles that you play that are part of where you have to allocate your resources. And they're not all going to be the same or have the same level of importance. So part of creating balance to see capital or personal gain or that return of investment is making, one, you fully understand where you have allocated your resources to. So work, my marriage, parenting, being a daughter, I volunteer over here, spirituality, whatever it is. List all the places where you put time, energy, and how it then in turn affects your bandwidth. Because now the next thing, once you know where you allocate those things, prioritize. Because you can't do 100 around for everything that you do. You can't be 100 here, 100 there. It's not how it works. So when you think about where you put your emotional in, ask yourself, do I find I put 70% of my emotional and mental energy at work? So by the time I get home, all I got left is 30 for my husband or my wife and my kids. And is that how you want to allocate your resources? Ask yourself that. And if you're allocating 70, why? Do you see it having growth and value? Is there a return on the investment of what you give to your job? Because clearly you're giving less at home. The work-life balance thing we talk about. Think about that. You must prioritize where you allocate your resources. And the next step after that is, after you prioritize, these are the roles. This is what's important. This is what I make sure I reserve that energy, that I have enough to, go home and give to my family, that I can be present with my kids. There's nothing worse than when I sit in therapy and I hear a person say, I work so hard at work, and honestly, when I get home, all I want to do is sit on my couch and go to sleep because I'm dead dog tired. I feel bad because now my kids are like, hey, you're home, and they want to play with me, and I have no energy and I'm frustrated. Think about it. That's a lot of depletion of emotional and mental energy and time at a job that often that person is describing they're very unhappy with. So you must prioritize. You identify where you allocate resources, prioritize them, and then ask yourself, as I am allocating whatever it is, my time, energy, the bandwidth, you name it, what is the outcome that I expect of that allocation? Remember, all allocations are not created equal, and neither is the return. So it just might be that you're going to volunteer at the animal shelter, and it's just going to make you feel good. That's it. So all returns aren't the same, but if you find value in that return, that's important. Final thing I will tell you to think about in this, when you talk about valuing the return, make sure that as you're prioritizing these things, that the value on the return matches the priority. See, that's that self-audit that you have to do, that a lot of times that people struggle with out of fairness. And that is the basis, everyone, of what the economy of self is. So just imagine your inner self as a complex, thriving system, like a financial system, and it has assets. It's your energy, attention, creativity, peace. It's liabilities, where there can be stress, burnout, and even resentment. And there can be a continuous flow of transactions in your life that often you don't even realize because you don't realize how often you spread yourself thin. By neglecting this internal system, you risk a massive personal deficit. And the economy of self, this philosophy I've created, urges you to become a savvy chief investment officer of your own life and stop letting other things dictate how you're thriving or if you're just surviving. Now there's a thought. Well, everyone, thank you for listening to this episode. As I said, the whole purpose of this podcast is to help you to identify your ambition, harness that motivation to help you acquire the success and satisfaction you seek in your everyday life. Remember, of course, you can find every single one of my episodes, pretty much it's every podcast platform out there. So you can find it on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Audibles, Spotify. All you have to search M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition. Of course, you can always listen to episodes on YouTube. So you just watch there, but subscribe and share the YouTube channel, M.A.Y.A Speaks to You, as well as that's how you keep track of M.A.Y.A is pretty much, that is all of my social media handles from Facebook, Instagram, or X. It's M.A.Y.A Speaks to You. Of course, I found ways to try to make this less complicated for you. You can always listen to episodes of M.A.Y.A on my website, M.A.Y.A Speaks to You. I'm sorry, M.A.Y.A-speaks.com. Sorry, correction on that. Is where you can watch or listen to episodes of the podcast. But also, as I've shared with you, I'm very proud of my two blogs I have there that they both post Wednesday. One is an inspirational blog. I give you one thought a week. I want you to process and really think about to put into your M.A.Y.A toolbox. Like, what is saying? How does it speak to you? Does it apply to you? And then, of course, anybody who knows, I also have my menopause blog, which is Me on Pause. It's everything that's important for you to know about perimenopause or menopause for the ladies. But fellas, it can also help you understand what that special someone in your life might be going through as well, because it isn't just physiological changes. There are big psychological, mental health pieces to going through that hormonal change that most people have no idea. So they're hearing about perimenopause and menopause because lots of things are being pushed. But educating yourself on it's not one size fits all, and what you might be experiencing, somebody else may not understand. I try to put that knowledge out there to create more understanding. And of course, another way you can keep up with the show and know what's going on, I do have the M.A.Y.A Experience app. You can find that on the Apple store, or you can find it in the Amazon store. You can scan either one of these QR codes there, and it will take you there, and you can download the app, and right there in the palm of your hand in your sixth appendage, literally, you can find the blogs, the podcast, you can listen, you can watch, everything that is M.A.Y.A is right there on the M.A.Y.A Experience app. It just doesn't get any simpler than everybody. So I like to encourage you, please like, subscribe, share, obviously looking to truly grow my audience, put information out there, want more people to see the podcast. I am so passionate about normalizing conversation about mental wellness, and the more people who understand it, the better that it gets. So everyone, until next time, remember, your present becomes your past, but that means your future is no more. So make the most of every single day. Be well, stay safe, but really more importantly, everybody, just keep being amazing, because that's what you are. I will see you all next week with another pertinent, juicy topic that you can drop into your M.A.Y.A toolbox. Until then, if you happen to be anywhere where it's cold, stay warm. And if you're warm, we're a little jealous. I'll see everybody next week. Ciao.
Whether you're on the go or listening on your cell phone, tablet, or laptop, you can find the show in the iTunes, Google, and iHeartRadio platforms.
With all due respect, I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Just search M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition, and get ready to be inspired and motivated to harness your ambition.